Okay. Hi guys, it's Rob here from SR3 Rescue, Blackcomb Helicopters as well. There's been a lot of confusion about what type of equipment comes under certain names, and there's a bit of confusion maybe about what different equipment is called, how it's classified, and how it's used, and ways that can be used to your advantage and also to your disadvantage. So I just want to run through some of the gear that we have here and kind of talk about each bit piece by piece and go over them a little bit. So what I want to talk about a little bit more is things like single action, double action, triple action equipment, if there is even an action at all. And as you can see, I've got some equipment laid out here, and we'll kind of work through them bit by bit and talk about them. So starting at no action, what I would consider, this is just a regular accessory carabiner. And as you can tell, absolutely nothing is required to unlock this gate. It's just open. So that would be a zero action gate, if you will. Some people would say, yes, that's an action, but in terms of the way that's they're classified from a safety perspective, that's a no action gate. So when we're talking about things like rollout, you can roll right out of that piece of equipment. Good for accessory stuff, good, quick, nice and easy to clip in and out of, but for any kind of human load, definitely not a safe thing to be using. Moving along to something that would be considered a double action. So this carabiner would be a good one. As you can see, that gate's locked, it won't open. So it requires something to happen in order to open up that gate. The action in this case is a twist. It's just a twist, there's no extra thing involved there. Twist, and the gate opens. So it's obviously a little bit safer than something like what we just spoke about, but there is still some safety built in. But as you guys know, you can rub up against something and basically roll out of that gate fairly easily and open it up. Good again, but certainly not the best option. Here's another option of what I would call a double action carabiner. So it's a screw gate. As we know, there's orientation concerns about having it one way or the other. It's been proven that really upside down, right way up, gravity doesn't have a huge impact on wind, vibration, stuff like that. We'll still unlock that whether it's right way around or upside down, depending on how you look at it. In this case, you can just flick that and you can either lock it or flick it and unlock it, or like I say, vibration, wind, stuff like that will deactivate that gate, and then you're back at square one with something like this. This is not an auto locking ability, so it won't lock again. The advantage of the one we looked at previously is that if you do let it go, it will lock back in that position, so it requires two things to happen simultaneously, so slightly better. Couple other options we have here, things like snap hooks. So this one here, also this one here as well. Slightly different layout than the carabiner style. They do require a second action. So there's the first action to open it, and then obviously the gate will open. So it's what we would call a single action device. The good thing about this is that whatever's happening on the front side here isn't impacted the lock at all. So something like one of these beaners, everything can happen on the front side. So one action can effectively open this thing. Whereas something like that, it actually requires something to press on the back in order to deactivate the gate, which then needs to be opened in some method as well. Exactly the same with this style of Kong gates. Fairly different brands of stamping on them, but effectively it's a Kong Tango carabiner. And it requires a button on the back with an action on the front, but it is still what we would call a single action. So one action unlocks it, and then after that you can roll out just like anything else. So what we would consider to be ideal, or the best option for a lot of cases, especially if it's fairly intuitive to use, is something that requires three, or what we're calling a triple action beaner, which is two separate actions and then the gate will open as the third. So this carabiner here is a good example. It looks the same fundamentally as the one we looked at earlier, but this actually requires an action upwards. So you've actually got to slide that gate upwards in order to unlock it. So it's an upwards and then a roll and then opening. So that's three separate actions. You guys saw earlier, you can rub up against that and basically open it quite easily. Whereas that one there doesn't have the same ability. You need to have an action up and then an action forward, and then you can still unlock it, but it's just one extra thing. It makes it a little bit trickier to do. Another type of release mechanism that we see out there is something like a capewell release. So it's a quick release type mechanism. Different type of connector, but still a connector nonetheless. People have concerns over these things, whether they're going to release inadvertently or won't release when you want them to. But realistically, once you pull the protective cover off, it's still 2 actions before it will release. So we have the first action of the cover, the second action of the ring, and it releases. So just another way of achieving the same thing, but you do need to be careful that obviously it does have the ability to release under load. So that's one option. And then lastly, for other triple action, more traditional things, we've all seen hooks. We've seen the Bina from previously. Again, with something like the life-saving system hook, you can't just push one of the buttons. You have to push both buttons in order for it to open and release. So that would be classed as triple action as well, just because you have to do 1 action, 2 action before you can have the third of opening the gate. And they're available in a couple of different styles there as well. Another example of something triple action, which is sometimes often forgotten, is on something like this harness, which is an aerial machine and tool chameleon harness. So the buckles, all the buckles on this thing are actually triple action as well, sort of. So it requires 1 action to pinch, another action to pinch, and then you actually have to release the buckle. The difference between something like this hook is that opening the gate is an active action. You actually have to do something, whereas this one here, as soon as you pinch those buttons, it will come apart. So kind of halfway between a double action and triple action. But I think ultimately, the point we're trying to make here is that anything triple action is going to be much, much, much safer. And as you go down from there back to double action and what it would be 1 action to open the gate, you're eroding those levels of safety waste. So you just need to look at the equipment you're using, the way that you're joining it all together, and then consider as well how that gear all interacts with each other and if there's ways that your particular setup can cause concerns that we haven't seen here. But we encourage you guys to give us a shout. Send us an email. We're on all the social media, Instagram, Facebook, all the stuff. Let us know if you have questions, and we'd love to talk about it. So thanks for watching.